Robert Trumbull Smith. I've been here, this is my 4th year. I was 15 years in outside Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Okay.
After I'd retired from teaching. I taught before that for 28 years outside Boston at the Cambridge School of Weston.
What'd you teach?
History, high school.
World history, American history?
American history, everything. Chinese history, history of science, history of photography, history of the United States. There's a little more to it than that, too.
You want to go into that?
Well, just at one point around 1971, 72, 73, when I was at the Cambridge School in Weston, Mass. All of a sudden, the headmaster, the assistant headmaster, the head of there were about 8 Bobs.
Right.
And I said, well, this is a good time to switch. Just go to my middle name.
My mother's second husband was a Bob.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude, Bob's so common.
Sometimes Rob or
It's Bob.
I called him Robert.
If I'd been called Robert or Rob, I would have just stayed with that.
Just stayed with that.
I like Rob is a great name, I think.
Every Tom,
like
Dick,
to
and
be
Harry
Rob.
meets a Bob.
In fact, one time on television, there was on CBS something. There was something about the Bob Smith Club.
Right.
Because there's thousands of them.
Well, it was Buffalo Bob Smith.
Yeah, Buffalo. Yeah, I've been kidded about that. Yeah.
He was beloved.
Yeah.
An icon.
Right.
And now largely forgotten.
Well, you go to a cocktail party or somewhere and people have a few drinks and say, "Your name is Bob, Buffalo Bob."
Where's the puppet? So Korea, how did you get there?
Well, anyway, I graduated from. I joined the Marine Reserves in the. Now the story there is, you got to get the atmosphere around 1949, 1950. I graduated from high school, and the next war was going to be World War III.
Right.
Had nothing to do with
Right.
these little dinky wars now, and so one of my friends and I, we both joined the Marine Reserves in Portland. Well,
You and your friend.
but Bob Aiken, his name is.
Another Bob.
Another Bob. Oh yeah, there were Bobs. There were 4 of us named Bob who went to Korea together from high school, and Bob Rousseau, Bob Parrish, Bob Aiken, Bob Smith. Anyway, and we all came back, so that's good. So about 2 weeks after graduation, North Korea invaded South Korea, and within about 3 weeks, our Marine battalion was called to duty. And most of them were veterans from World War II.
Where'd you train? Where were you posted?
Well, first,
here in the States before you.
yeah, before we went over.
Yeah.
Well, I just joined, so we went to boot camp, San Diego. That's the Marine boot
Pendleton.
camp in San Diego.
Camp Pendleton.
And then Camp Pendleton after that for infantry training. So that's the deal. I was trained to be, infantry. And so did all that for a few months. By around March 51, shipped on ships in those days, not airplanes, heading for Japan and then Korea. The Korean War is going on. And about halfway over, they told us where we're going when we get there. And I think it was on a little slip of paper, and it said Service Battalion, Graves Registration. And I was like, what? Because I was all thinking I was going to be in the foxhole,
Right.
And so I went, God. And it was actually a little bit of a letdown, which is kind of weird, but
What was the
psychologically, you're accepting the fact that you're going to be in the fighting,
Right.
So after about my little story here is about 2 or 3 hours, I can remember walking around the ship going, and then I went, wait a minute, God, my mom will be glad to hear this. And that was, of course, she didn't hear about it for like 2 weeks, because in those days.
When you shipped out, did you know that you were going into the Korean War?
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, there were on the
Your orders, you're saying you're
orders
going
had. Oh yeah, we'd go to Japan first, dump off our sea bag. The Marines are Navy, you know,
Right.
so we use naval words. So our sea bag with our stuff in it, most of it, we left in Kobe,
Yeah.
that big Marine base there, got back on the ship, over to Korea, up to the... Now my final little sentence on it is when people ask me quicker, I'll say, you remember that TV program MASH?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was in like a MASH, you know, I know but it wasn't medical, it was supply. So it's like, because after about 2 weeks of Graves registration, they put me over into general supply, which is clothes, boots, and so that's where I spent. And so for the next 9-10 months, we moved around. We got pushed back once. Almost got surrounded. Got back. Orders come back. We need so many boots and clothing and tents, sleeping bags, everything you could think. Gloves, hats. I don't remember thinking big issues like,
Right.
are we? Because I don't know if you know, I have to say, you know, when when I was still in the States, the North Koreans came down, then we sent in more troops, landed at Incheon, up by the 38th parallel, and North Korea collapsed. Their army was, now the war should have ended right there.
Right.
We had pushed them back to the 38th parallel, but we decided to go ahead and try and take all of North Korea. And the story is that China became very upset about this, and they poured in December, January, 50, 51, and pushed us back. The Marines I was still in the States, but my Marine division was surrounded up at the Chosin Reservoir, and they fought their way back. And so I knew a lot of guys who were there. And we all got back, and just about then, that's when I arrived. So then we were pushing north, but the Chinese pushed us back, and we pushed. But we were about 20 miles behind the front all the time.
Right.
But we'd have to load the trucks up and cut the tents and retreat and go back, and for about 3 or 4 months. Then the peace talk started,
Right.
and then it settled down.
Right. And by the time you came back to the States, by the time you
Yeah, it was still
mustered out, then
Yeah.
what was the disposition
well.
of the war?
The war was just going on like in MASH. Just there just seemed to be this continuous fighting. They were
Right.
fighting on the front.
Right.
And on the way back, we went back to Japan. We had a few days in Kobe, Osaka, Tokyo, Yokohama, Yokosuka. We in Tokyo Bay there, and got out on the ship. Now, here's one thing I will say. About a year ago here, I was looking at this book in the library about New York City. Anyway, they had a quote from F. Scott Fitzgerald, the author.
Sure.
Okay, and it had a neat thing, and he said, I always thought that I think this is a good thing for a group to think about. He said he was about 22, 23 years old, and he had just the publisher had just accepted his first novel, which it's not The Great Gatsby.
No,
but
This Side of Paradise.
This Side of Paradise, yes. And he was driving in New York City down the west side or east side. Anyway, he started crying.
Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald did, and he said because he was so happy. And then he started crying because he realized this would probably be the happiest moment he'll ever have in his life. He'll have his first book accepted. And I thought, God, that's a neat thought. I was thinking to myself, what was the happiest moment? I thought it'd be a great group thing to do. You know, leaving out the day I was married and all that. It's, you know, something a little more different. And then I thought, well, one of them for me was coming back from Korea. One day, it was about 2 weeks on the sea, and for some reason, I was on a troop ship, USS Weigel, I remember the name, and I'm sitting out on deck in the morning. It's one of those choppy days, you know, brilliant sun with a breeze, and the water's kind of choppy, so it's kind of, and I'm sitting on one of those things where they put the chain around, you know, and I'm just thinking, something to that effect. This is about as good as it's ever going to get, you know, because I had no girlfriend that I had coming back to.
Right.
My family was, I'm healthy. I made it. You know, I survived. I knew I would be going to college in 4 or 5 months. Had the GI Bill. So it's just sort of like, wow. And it was just a beautiful day.